Sign up to The Economist for in-depth curated expert analysis of world events and topics ranging from business and culture to science and technology. You'll get the weekly digital edition, online-only articles, curated newsletters on politics, the markets, science, culture, and China, and full access to The Economist Podcast Plus. The Economist is independent journalism for independent thinking. Go to economist.com and get your first month free.
Today on CityCast Houston, it's another week and another what the heck is happening in HISD? Plus, why don't college grads want to move to Houston? And you won't guess what thieves are stealing now. Hey, Houston newsletter editor Brooke Lewis joins me to break down the biggest stories to know this week. It's Tuesday, May 14th. I'm Raheel Ramzanali, and here's what Houston's talking about. Hey, Brooke, welcome back into CityCast Houston. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's going to be a good week. Hopefully, there's no more crazy weather like we saw yesterday because that was intense. And maybe we can move past some of these thunderstorms because they're getting out of hand.
Oh my gosh. Do we live in Seattle? I just want sun, just some sunshine, just consistent sun though. Maybe for a solid week and then we can have a few rainstorms.
I'm good with the rain. I just get scared with the hail and with the wind damage. That's my big fear. Rain, give it to me. I don't care. Thunderstorms are fine. But the hail, especially these golf-size hail reports that we see every once in a while, they just terrify me.
Oh man, I agree. I'm just hoping for sunny days and maybe like a little light drizzle so that it's not 100 degrees this summer.
Amen to that. Hey, before we start with recapping some of the big news that everyone should know about this week, I want to promote a big episode that we have coming in a new series starting this Thursday. We're going to be examining what's happening with human trafficking beyond the headlines. Obviously, we've heard about the sad situation that is sex trafficking, but there's a whole different layer that isn't getting talked about enough. And we will have Dr. Molly Gordon on to talk about that this Thursday. And then the following Thursday, we will be talking to a survivor of human trafficking and sex trafficking about the realities of what is happening. So we will be launching that series this Thursday. Be on the lookout. And of course, share this podcast with your friends so they can subscribe, so they can listen to not only that episode, but also all of our episodes on CityCast Houston.
I'm really excited for this series and just to dive deeper into a topic that I feel like isn't really highlighted as much as it should be. It's something that's prevalent in Houston. And so I'm interested to find out more.
Yeah. And I will say, Brooke, you will definitely learn something new from that episode because I left it going, wow, that was unbelievable. So that comes this Thursday. But first, let's get to our big news. What do you got for me, Brooke?
So I have some, I think, good-ish or maybe bad-ish news. Depends on if you're like, Houston, we're full. But the class of 2024 graduates, they're not moving to Houston. Most of this year's graduating college seniors are seeking the security of a government job, and few are applying to risky tech jobs. And this all comes from a campus recruitment website, Handshake. So the class of 2024, they have a name, which it kind of makes me sad. They're referred to as the bummer generation. It's just because they've gone through a lot. COVID, I mean, I can't imagine. Many of them, were seniors when COVID first hit, and then now they're graduating after the pandemic. And so they want more security. They're looking for stable jobs. But surprisingly, a lot of them are moving to New York City. That's the most popular destination for class of 2024 graduates, attracting 9.1% of total applicants. And then some other places like DC, Salt Lake City, and Boise, Idaho saw some large increases, which I think is interesting. I'm okay with this news because I do feel like Houston, we're full and we don't need any more young adults. We don't. I think we're good.
One of the interesting things from this, the largest gains, as you mentioned, New York, Washington, D.C., but number 3 was Texas City. How about that? Texas City making some noise.
It's just such a random location. I don't know. I mean, I'll show some love to any Texas city, but it's just kind of random. That's such a random location to be like, I'm moving here after graduation.
Yeah, it's so random. Like that Texas City right there by the dike. I had no idea that was a poppin' place. I'll be honest with you.
I mean, I didn't know, but look, I also want to show some love to Boise, Idaho. We have a whole newsletter around that city. So I think you should subscribe. For the people who are listening and maybe they're moving to Boise, we have a great newsletter editor and an amazing podcast. So subscribe to those.
Yeah, CityCast Boise is great. And a few more of our CityCast cities also made that list with DC and Salt Lake City. So definitely check them out as well and subscribe to their podcasts and newsletters. How about New York is now jumping back up? I guess there's a lot of places available there because New York was always one of the tough spots to go after graduating just because of how expensive it is. And also Washington, D.C. And I am kind of shocked that there aren't more Texas cities on here. I get the jobs that people are looking for and everything you laid out. But even with that being said, it is still more affordable and almost easier to start your professional career in a Texas city, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I would think New York City would be more unstable. It's like that is a place where the rent is so expensive and you're going to really be competing with a lot of people for jobs. So I don't understand why they would think that would be a more stable environment. But it is kind of cool because I remember growing up, that was like, I want to move to New York City. So I think it's really interesting that people want to move back to New York because I think during COVID, a lot of people's desire to live in the city just really left during that time. They desired to be out, and where there was more land, more trees around, more nature. And so it's just interesting that now I feel like class of 24, they're reversing course and they want to be back in the big city surrounded by just like the hustle and bustle.
Yeah, I guess everybody wants to be part of that simulation that is New York City because every single day on social media, I see something from New York City. I'm like, this isn't real. There's no way the city's real anymore because it is wild what's happening there. You know how we do only in H-Town? They should do only in New York City because there's some crazy stuff going on over there.
Totally.
Okay, speaking of what is going on over there, Brooke, what is going on at HISD? It is wild how many stories we've seen about the budget cuts, about the staff reduction that's about to happen. And I've got this story from Nuseba Mizan of the Houston Chronicle. Houston ISD alerted dozens of teachers and principals of both performance-based job cuts and budget force reductions this week, prompting parents across the state's largest school system to plan another round of protests as this crazy school year is finally nearing the end after the takeover last year. The cuts even include, get ready for this, teachers and principals who have won awards for their performance as teachers and principals of the year. The school district's board of managers unanimously permitted job cuts last week prior to the 2024-2025 school year. Positions subject to cut include nurses, librarians, counselors, assistant principals, reading, math, and science teachers, special education coordinators, and so many other important jobs. Superintendent Mike Miles did say last week that the school district has to slash jobs in almost every department due to budget cuts as the district faces an estimated $450 million funding gap, something that they knew was going to be there, by the way, and they still weren't prepared for it. And now they're putting everyone on notice that, hey, your contracts aren't going to be renewed or you are done. They are impacting everybody, Brooke, not only teachers, but also custodial staff. And this is the wildest one. We've seen some stories where staff has been there for decades and they're just getting cut now and they can reapply for their positions, but they're not guaranteed to get them.
It's so crazy. You're so right. Because I just think every week there's a new story in HISD and each one gets more shocking. And also, I just remember, only a few weeks ago, it was the promise that, okay, certain people will be able to keep their jobs. And now they're not. And then also that some of these people were award-winning teachers and they're still going to get cut. If I was a parent HISD, I would be very, very concerned. Very, very worried.
Do you remember when he first took over, he was talking about the new education system and how they're going to pay teachers more and how if you are doing great, then you're going to get more money. Like, hey, this is how it works out. By the way, their school calendar next year is a little bit longer as well. And Mike Miles did talk about paying teachers more for more time in the classroom. Where's all this money going to come from if you have to cut this much already? Some reports are saying, $450 million, that's a deficit. These cuts might help with about 120, 150, according to some reports. So what else is going to have to be done because they're still going to have this deficit, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's like some of these positions that are getting cut just are so essential, like librarians, nurses, counselors, people that get, I think, overlooked in the school system, but they're just so key. And I think so many of us can think back to like, that librarian we had or going to the nurse's office and she was so nice and always helped us. And these are key people that are in the district and they're going to get cut. And sounds like they're probably still going to have to do some things to cut even more because they're not going to have enough funding.
Just wild what is happening at HISD. And by the way, here's another layer on top of this. Okay. Next week, our friends at the Houston Landing, they have a town hall scheduled with Mike Miles on May 20th at the Hobby Center. So if you want to attend that, you can. And he's actually going to be taking questions from high school seniors that had to go through everything this last year under Mike Miles. So that's going to be interesting. And that's going to be fireworks. I think I'm going to be there. I want to see what happens.
Yeah, that's awesome that they're doing that. I'm not going to be surprised that they're going to ask some really thoughtful, probably searing questions to him, and I'm just interested to see. I kind of want to check that out myself too.
I'm wondering if he's going to show up or not.
Yes.
There's a part of me like, and with all this negative press out there, will he face the music, right? And we'll find out. To be fair, he's never like shied away from the criticism and will attack it head on. So I don't know. This is going to be interesting.
Especially at the Hobby Center. I'm like, what a venue for this to take place. Like, I hope he shows up. I hope, that people are going to get some answers to their questions. And yeah, we'll see what happens.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. From the launch your online shop stage, all the way to the we just hit 1 million orders stage. No matter what stage you're in, Shopify's there to help you grow. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/special offer, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/special offer.
All right, Brooke, are you ready for some rapid fire?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, Brooke, the first story, we are heading out here to Fort Bend because U.S. Rep Troy Nehls is being investigated by his peers over allegations that he used campaign funds for personal use, according to an Office of Congressional Ethics report released last week. And the Texas Tribune has this story. The story says the allegations are over rent paid to a company called Liberty 1776. The campaign paid more than $25,000 from 2019 to 2022 to this company, which is registered to Troy Nehls, who is listed in state records as the sole operator and proprietor. Nehls' attorney responded that the business is in fact linked to his campaign. So there's some, all right, so what is happening with this business? The report said the Office of Congressional Ethics could not determine a legitimate campaign use for the payments to the Liberty 1776. It is illegal to use campaign finances for purposes not related to running for office. And also, the campaign lists a different address than the company's for its campaign headquarters. So what is happening over here? The Office of Congressional Ethics said it had tried to interview staff from Troy Nehls' campaign and Liberty 1776 before referring the case to the House Ethics Committee, but they all refused. And here's a quote from Troy Nehls. He said, "The Office of Congressional Ethics was created under Nancy Pelosi, which is why I refuse to cooperate with the office. My books remain open and I am cooperating with the legitimate House Committee on Ethics, which is a nonpartisan committee." Oh my gosh. Like, what is happening over here?
That is so wild. I just think whenever stories like this come out, I'm like, how do people not think that they're going to get caught? Like, there's a paper trail. Someone's going to figure this out. I'm in shock because I also covered Troy Nehls when he was sheriff for Fort Bend County. And when I covered him, there was nothing like this. He was always someone who was outspoken, spoke his mind. But this is wild.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
I can't wait to see the report and what they actually find because I'm curious, like, what were they thinking? What was the mindset of these payments and saying that, yeah, this is part of the campaign. This is where the headquarters is. This is where we host big events. So yeah, sure, we can make this rent payment, and just kind of understanding the logic behind it more than anything. Because if he's saying his books are open, cool, let's find out. and let's talk to them. I just hate that everything turns into oh, look, it's Nancy Pelosi or it's the Democrats doing this.
Yeah.
It's just, hey, let's figure this out. So the constituents know what is happening. That's the biggest thing here. Let's find out the truth. And if you did nothing wrong, then you did nothing wrong and we move on.
Right. Just like, follow the rules of the investigation and then you can clear your name if you didn't do anything. So it's just like, it's crazy. My mouth is wide open. People can see me. I'm like, I just can't believe that.
Okay, Brooke, this next story is a little bit harder to talk about. So if you are sensitive to certain information and injuries, then you might want to be ready for this one or tune away for a few or fast forward. But a Galveston County woman is suing the city of Santa Fe and 2 police officers after they allegedly hogtied her and shoved her face forwards into a pile of fire ants, according to court documents obtained by Fox 26 reporters. Now, local parent Taylor Rogers claimed in her lawsuit that Sergeant Ruben Espinoza and Officer Christian Carranza used excessive force to stop her. And there is video of this and pictures afterwards of these fire ant bites all over this woman. So here's what happened. This incident occurred in August of 2021, and Sergeant Ruben Espinoza, who is now the chief of Santa Fe ISD PD, told KPRC that Rogers was trying to cut in front of the parent drop-off area at Roy J. Wallum Elementary School when he told her to stop. And according to his account, she was behaving erratically when he attempted to warn her against it. And he says, quote, she turned her vehicle into the bus driveway where students are dropped off by the bus. That location is at the front of the school. It's very close to where kids are being dropped off. I could tell she was determined not to stop. So my fear was that she was going to run over someone near the school. So I used my vehicle to stop her vehicle from doing that. That eventually led to the officers getting Rogers out of the car. And then we see the video, which is linked in our show notes. But the reason I'm bringing the story up, Brooke, is forget whatever happened leading up to it. If a woman is crying and yelling that, hey, ants are biting me, at least look and move her and help her clean up because you've tied her.
Yeah.
This is wild.
Yeah, it's crazy that is the repercussions for her actions. I think that, of course, kids need to be safe. We don't want anyone to get hurt. And I think sometimes, picking up your kids, dropping them off, a lot of people are kind of impatient. They're just trying to do things that maybe they shouldn't do, but to hogtie someone and then for them to fall into fire ants, it's not what should be done. It really isn't. And I can't believe it escalated to that level. I think we're seeing more of these incidents where excessive force is used. And with some of the incidents, it's like, did it really need to escalate to that level? Did it really need to go to that level of force? And in this scenario, it just seems questionable. I know we weren't there. We only have the video. We can't go off of every angle of what was happening, but it doesn't seem humane. And I think that's the thing, that people just want to be treated as human beings.
Yeah. I think it's just a human decency question at this point. I get it. Tempers are high. She was not complying according to the officers, which, yeah, that adds an extra layer of stress and tension. But if somebody's saying, hey, there's ants all over my face, and even if she's lying, let's say, right?
Yeah.
You can still go look at her and make
Yeah.
sure there's not ants over her face. And if there are, then can you help her just get those off of her? Because the pictures are shocking and it is so sad to see.
Ugh.
Again, this has no impact on what she did. What the officers did to stop her from cutting and potentially going into a bus lane, all that is done. Like, you've taken her out of the car. That is a whole different thing. Just the human decency angle, that is just heartbreaking to see.
That's just another wild story, but it goes back to that golden rule, all the way back to when we were kids: treat people the way that you want to be treated.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even in an instance where, that maybe they are doing something and they're not compliant, you can still treat people the way that you would want to be treated.
Okay, Brooke, my last rapid fire here is about you. Are you ready to be put in rapid fire?
I mean, I'm always ready. I'm always ready.
I want to point this out. You had this awesome summer guide on Monday's edition of Hey Houston. So I want to give it some love here. There's so many good resources in there. Can you just highlight a few of the things that you put in there? And if you want to see the whole thing, by the way, it is linked in our show notes. But it was so awesome for parents to see this guide.
I'm so glad that you enjoyed. I honestly had fun making it, and I'm going to make one for adults. So stay tuned. That's why you got to subscribe to the newsletter.
Okay.
But yeah, some of the highlights for me were just so many of the free activities available to parents. I know sometimes it feels like you have to spend an arm and a leg to keep your kid entertained throughout the summer. But even through the city of Houston and Harris County, they have free resources. So you can check out the summer food service program that's offered through the city of Houston. It offers free breakfast and lunch Monday through Friday throughout the summer. And having to plan so many meals, it can be a financial strain for so many families. And I hope that that resource can provide some relief, that there are free meals available for your children. Also, for those that are a little bit older, like some teenagers, and you just don't want them sitting around the house, like endlessly scrolling through TikTok, there are a lot of listings for summer positions that you can get through the city of Houston. So just go on their website. It's linked. And if you are reading the Monday edition of Hey Houston, you can go right to that link and find some of those job opportunities. If your son or daughter is a great swimmer and they maybe even have lifeguard experience, the city of Houston is looking to open all the pools this summer. It's been an issue since COVID for them to open all pools because of not having enough lifeguards. And so they're actually offering an extra $500 incentive if you work the whole summer, so you can make some money. Some of the other things are just some of the free sports activities for your kids to get involved in throughout the summer. Just keep them busy, help them run a lot, and then they won't bother you as much. They just get home, they
Yep.
get tired, and they won't, keep you up all night. So, and there's also free swim lessons. So just check out the newsletter, a lot of free resources, and it was really awesome to see. And I'm going to, like I said, do the same thing for adults coming soon.
I can't wait to see the adults one. But yeah, the free swim lessons, the jobs, this is such a great resource for parents. So definitely check it out. Okay, it is time for Only in H-Town, Brooke. It is time to highlight the funniest, wackiest, craziest stuff that is going on in our city because only in H-Town can this happen. What do you got for me?
Yeah, so I think this one is more on the sad side. I know sometimes we give a little funny one, but this one I'm just like, give the janitors what they want. So hundreds of Houston janitors are calling for change and also threatening to go on strike if they do not get better benefits and fair pay. And so they're saying if an agreement isn't reached by May 31st, then they're going to go on strike. And I don't think people understand this is like one of those jobs that is definitely not valued. It's hidden. People are often overlooked that do this job. But to think about all the janitors that could go on strike and how that would affect the cleanliness of our buildings and just the upkeep of those things, I just think they just need to give the janitors what they want because they're so valuable. And I don't think people want to find out what it will be like without having those valuable resources.
Yeah, and they are uniting as one with the Service Employees International Union, SEIU, and that union represents so many different groups of janitors from Airport Workers United to healthcare, Fight for 15, which is a bump in pay. So there's a lot of different things happening here. And yeah, can we figure this out, please? Because they are such a valuable part of our community and what they do is so important. So yeah, let's figure this out ASAP, please.
Listen to us at CityCast Houston. Figure it out so that you don't have to go through what you're going to have to go through.
Okay, Brooke, my Only in H-Town, it's not funny either, but it is so H-Town. And here's why. Like, I'm laughing just reading it again. But Only in H-Town are thieves cutting up cables at Tesla's supercharger stations. KPRC Channel 2 is reporting that 4 supercharger stations have been hit, and thieves are literally cutting the cables that connect the superchargers to the cars, leaving drivers basically stranded. If that isn't the most H-Town thing ever, I don't know what is. Literally, like they're just cutting these cables off. So when I saw this headline, I was like, whoa, people are robbing people at these supercharging stations, which is one of my big fears, right? Is like when you pull up to these charging stations, it takes 30 minutes to recharge your car if you are using it. And usually they are attached to a business, so you can go inside to Five and Below or Academy or wherever and walk around, right?
Right.
But a lot of times you just stay in your car, and that's kind of scary. At a gas station, you pull up, you fill up, and you're done in less than 5 minutes, right? These supercharging stations take a lot longer depending on how much you fill up. So that's what I was confused about. I was like, wow, they're robbing people. No, Brooke, they're literally just going and cutting these cables, which I'm sure are super valuable and you can resell them or something because they have, wires in there that are expensive. But yeah, drivers are pulling up to these supercharger stations. They go up there and there's no cables. And if you don't have an EV, that is one of the scariest things. If you are short on range and you pull up to a station and it's not working, you don't know where the next one is. It's not like a gas station where there might be one across the street. You might get stranded because there's nowhere to charge up.
So is there anywhere else that they can go to get this? Like, can they have their own portable charging station? Like, what are the other options?
There really aren't. Like, I know some companies do make some portable chargers, but you won't get that much of a charge, honestly. These supercharger stations, you're going from, let's say, like 80 miles left on your car to filling it up back up to 280, 300 miles, right? So there's really not many other places. If there's not another supercharger around, which normally there isn't, you're kind of out of luck. That's it. Your car's going to die if you can't make it home, if you have a charger at home, or make it to another station, which could be, plenty of miles away. Like each station differs, but yeah, it could be kind of far. It might be close, but yeah, you're out of luck.
Honestly, it's terrifying because what do you do? What do you do after that? Where do you go? I don't know. But that is a very Houston thing. I just feel like the way we do anything car related is just it's so Houston. It's so bad. It's so bad.
So Houston, the cable's straight up missing. Like you can't help but laugh. It's so crazy.
And really only in H-Town. Maybe not something we want to brag about, but definitely only in H-Town.
Definitely. Brooke, thank you so much. That was a lot of fun.
Yes, I had a blast.
That was Brooke Lewis. You can find all the stories we discussed in our show notes. That will do it for today. Thank you for listening, and I hope you learned something new. I am doing great. I'm going to stop you there because there's a huge delay. Let me see.
Oh, no.